Hello, friends. And it's the grumpy old man broadcasting from Studio B of WDWL TV, a division of Grumpy Vulture Productions located on Grumpy Vulture Boulevard. And enough of the frickin' vulture already. Now, yesterday's video, the audio was really low. I discovered one thing. Brain dead. When I went to adjust the gain level, I forgot the mic is upside down. So as I was turning the gain, what I thought was up, I was turning it down. So hopefully I have it adjusted at the proper level. Now, before we get into what I'm calling Saturday shock, I got to show you something. See the size of this box? Look at the size of this box. Okay? You know what was inside that box? 2 items. 1, this little tube of pencil erasers for my mechanical pencil. Second item, my new mechanical pencil. These 2 items were in that giant box. These 2 little in that giant box. And now we know prices today are caused a lot by inflation. Prices are also caused by corporate waste. And that's not the first time I've had a little item shipped to me by a office supply store. I won't mention the name. Look at the size of this. It's 4 pencil erasers. That's it. This is a mechanical pencil. It's not, it doesn't weigh 500 pounds. Corporate waste. And this office supply store, I've mentioned this before. I says, don't you have smaller boxes? Those 2 items could have been put in a shipping envelope. The waste is unbelievable. And there's a home remodeling store that is just as bad. I ordered a 3-pack of furnace filters, 16 inches by 25 by 1, a 3-pack. They came in a box that was like the size of half of a casket. I looked at this huge ass box and I'm like, somebody shipped me the wrong shit. And then I opened the box and there was like 700 feet of packing paper and my furnace filters. And we wonder why when we go to make a purchase in a store, why is shit so expensive? Well, if we didn't have all this waste associated with it, those big boxes aren't cheap. And to use a box that big, now you can't tell me you were out of, shipping envelopes or you were out of small boxes. You know, I get items here every day. Well, not every day. I'm going to show you. See this box? This box came from overseas. Now it was in an envelope, but the envelope wasn't too much bigger than this box. Had this been shipped by either the office supply store or the home remodeling store, it would have been in a box about half the size of my truck. I just don't understand why we have to have such waste. All right. Now, for the Saturday shock. I no longer follow football. I stopped following football when Art Modell did his sneaky trick and sold the Browns to Baltimore, and they shipped out all the equipment in the middle of the night. And then we went, what did we go, 3-4 years before we were granted an expansion team? Well, when we finally were granted the expansion team, those Browns were not my Browns. My Browns were the Ravens. And I said, you know what? Screw it. And I'll tell you what, I was a loyal football follower. Saturday, college football, I don't care what college team was playing, I watched the games. And then the Sunday doubleheader, I had my tray table next to me, my cooler, my snacks. Don't freaking bother me while football's on. Not anymore. So, I read a news article today about the Lions and Tampa Bay. A regular ticket. Now, we're not talking a box, fancy. A regular seat ticket, $1,097 before tax. You got to add tax on that too. $1,100 for a standard seat. We're not talking box seat, loge. $1,100. And standing room only, $700. A ticket. I'll be goddamn if I'm going to spend $700 to stand. And in that freaking ass cold stadium, I wouldn't spend $1,100 either. But can you imagine what you're paying a scalper for a ticket? And I'm not making these figures up. This was on a sports news story. $1,097 for a regular seat, and $700 if you want a standing room only ticket. Talk about a shocker. Holy shit. Unfrickin' real. And what's the temperature going to be? 10? I think they're saying they're estimating it's going to be like 10 degrees. Can you imagine sitting in that open stadium, 10 degrees, and that's not counting the wind chill. With wind chill, it's going to be minus 25 for well over an hour? I can just imagine how many cases of frostbite there are going to be after that game. Not counting the frostbite, the players are probably going to. In those cold temperatures, a football turns into a rock, like a bowling ball. Unfrickin' real. There would be no way. I don't care if somebody gave me a ticket. There would be no way. You'd have to have electric socks, an electric heated vest, electric gloves, electric earmuffs. And then, God forbid, the battery go dead. Holy shit. Talk about ripoff, robbery without a gun. I can almost imagine what, like luxury box seats. I couldn't believe it. I said, you know what? I got to write this down because I got to talk about this. And then there's another item I got to talk about that will probably get me kicked off the tube. It was an article about an inmate in Alabama that is up for the big X. Put a lily in my hand and close the lid. Well, they tried in 2022, and uh, the nurses couldn't plug in an IV. This guy had like non-existent veins. So first of all, he's saying, you tried once. Uh, it's against my rights to do it twice. And they're using this new procedure called nitrogen hypoxia. And what they do is they strap, like one of those aviator oxygen masks on you, and the nitrogen quickly depletes the oxygen, and you get the big X. Well, he's saying that that's prolonged and unconstitutional Xing. And the lawyers are fighting this in court for a stay. And what I want to know, does anyone from the opposing side argue for the victim of his crime? I would tend to think that person's Xing was prolonged and unconstitutional. He X'd out a person. And he's saying, I don't deserve to be X'd out. What about the person that he X'd out? They didn't want to be X'd out. No, they and I wasn't going to research it. They didn't mention how the person got X'd out. But I'm sure it wasn't dainty and friendly and everyone had a smile on their face. I'm not going to say anymore. I made my point. I'm probably going to get in trouble. Just say it. Now, remember yesterday I told you when I pulled in the driveway, I saw coolant in the snow. And I looked over 95% of the engine bay and I couldn't find a leak. So today, I've got a brand new full gallon of coolant. I go out and open the hood of the truck and pop the radiator cap open. And the radiator is full to the top, not missing a drop. So I looked at the overflow. It's at the same point it was when I shut the truck off yesterday. And I always check to make sure it's at the full level, which it was, because I check oil before I I like to check things out. Also, here's a 1997 Nissan pickup truck with now it's only got 150,000 on it, but just saying, this motor does not burn one drop of oil. That's why I will drive this thing until I'm like the Fred Flintstone mobile. Had been dribbling out of the vehicle while I was driving home. That radiator should not have been full. And I left the cap off because sometimes the cap holds in vacuum and it keeps the radiator from draining down. And I left it like that for like 15 minutes and it never moved. So I started the truck. Radiator cap off, watching to see if it was going to blow coolant out, which means I would have had a bad head gasket. Nope. Engine idling away, coolant level remained. I don't know where this coolant was coming from. I checked every hose. I checked as much of the engine as I could check. It's like some little gremlin had a bucket of coolant and was going, ha ha, we're going to fuck with him. Don't know. Thank God. Because I'll tell you what, the heater in that truck is like a toaster. And I'm always cold in this weather anyway. But the heater in this truck blows away any other vehicle that I've got. Now, the Rav has got a decent heater, but it don't compare to this thing. With the Rav, I've got to leave the blower on high, the temperature on hot, constantly. With the Nissan, I kick the blower down to the number 2 position. It's got 4 speeds. And I back the heat off. That's why I was praying there was nothing majorly wrong with that truck. But I'll be damned if I know where that coolant came from. And if it would have gone through the overflow, the way the overflow is set up on that truck is basically it just would have gone down the edge of the reservoir and down the inner fender. Perfectly dry. I don't know. I'm grateful. Believe me, I'm grateful. Because I love that truck. If something major went wrong with that truck, you would see a 72-year-old man cry. And I mean crocodile tears. I just love that piece of shit. Even though every time I slam a door, another piece of the body falls off of it. That truck is my Rolls Royce. I love it. I wish I could find a cab and a front clip, like out of Arizona or something, to drop on that frame. because I'm sure this engine could go another 150,000 miles with no problem. And walk through the snow. Now, the damn city, when they plowed snow last night, they leave a mound in front of the driveway. When I came home, I angled over in the street and backed right in. I mean, it just walks through the snow like a tank. And I did order the front pad kit for the RAV. The kit's got the springs and the clips and everything that you need. There's not a damn thing with the rotors. And the only reason I knew, well, first of all, the pedal was a little spongy. But I was starting to hear a little eek, eek, eek. And that's those wear indicators telling you that your pads are at the limit before the rivets touch and tear everything up. So the rotors don't need to be surfaced. Just I gotta find a shop to put a set of pads on it for me. Because the rear brakes are fine. I mean, but when I pull that e-brake, I can stall that thing if I forget to take it off. That's how good the rear brakes are. But anybody that knows auto mechanics, you will go through 2 sets of front brake pads to every 1 set of rear shoes. Because your vehicle, the way that it's set up, the front end does 80% of the braking. So that's why your front pads wear out faster. Just remember that. And with that, hopefully the microphone is set right. And I will talk at you guys tomorrow. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.